তথ্য দেওয়া আছে তার ওপেনিং দুটো দিয়ে দিচ্ছে এখন লেটার মিলবেন ব্যবহার করে যেখানে পারে সেটা গুলি করবে
What everyone suspected for so long has now been chillingly confirmed. It was former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina who, according to a leaked audio recording verified by international media, ordered the deadly crackdown that left up to 1,400 protesters dead across Bangladesh, as estimated by the United Nations. The audio, now verified by the BBC, has revealed what many suspected for months. The brutal suppression of student-led protests in 2024, which resulted in thousands injured, was authorized at the highest level. A nation still reeling from the chaos of its streets, filled with students, tear gas, and a tragic loss of life, now confronts the grim reality that the brutal force used was a directive from the very top. Hasina finds herself at the center of an international firestorm after a leaked audio recording appears to capture her giving explicit instructions to use lethal force on protesters. The backlash has been swift, the implications profound. How did Bangladesh reach this boiling point, and what does this mean for a nation already on the edge? The controversy centers around mass protests that erupted in mid-2024, initially triggered by a civil service quota reform movement that quickly escalated into widespread demonstrations following Bangladesh's highly disputed general elections. The elections were marred by allegations of vote rigging, opposition boycotts, and violent crackdowns on dissent. Thousands of students across the country rallied against what they described as the collapse of democratic norms and escalating authoritarianism. Demonstrations in Dhaka, Chittagong, Sylhet, and Rajshahi quickly turned into battlegrounds. The government's response was swift and brutal. Tear gas, rubber bullets, and eventually live ammunition were deployed to crush the protests. The deadliest period came in July and August 2024. On August 5, 2024, as protests intensified, security forces opened fire on demonstrators in multiple cities, leading to an estimated 1,400 deaths, according to United Nations investigators, with thousands more injured. This was the day Sheikh Hasina fled Bangladesh. Witnesses described seeing students being dragged into unmarked vans, beaten in alleyways, and some even shot at close range. In the days that followed, the streets of Dhaka resembled a war zone. Hospitals overflowed with the injured. Funerals were held under heavy police surveillance. The government maintained that it was acting in self-defense against violent mobs, but public trust was eroding fast. Then came the leak. In March 2025, a short audio clip began circulating on WhatsApp and Telegram. At first, many dismissed it as a fake. But as it gained traction, major Bangladeshi media outlets picked it up. The BBC, through its investigative desk, analyzed the voice using digital forensics. Their conclusion: the voice was indeed Sheikh Hasina's. In the clip, she can be heard saying, "Wherever they find them, they will shoot. No need to ask questions." The voice was calm, unapologetic, and damning. This is not the first time Sheikh Hasina has been accused of authorizing lethal force. Throughout her time in power, human rights groups have documented the systematic use of death squads allegedly operating under her direct command. Units like the notorious Rapid Action Battalion have been linked to thousands of extrajudicial killings, with reports indicating at least 2,699 deaths from 2009 to 2023, and hundreds of enforced disappearances, mostly targeting political opponents, activists, and journalists. International watchdogs have repeatedly raised alarms about systematic torture within secret prisons, with some estimates suggesting as many as 3,500 people were disappeared through such facilities. Hasina's government has always vehemently denied these allegations, often dismissing them as politically motivated, but the chilling pattern has been difficult to ignore. The recent leaked audio has only revived and gravely strengthened those long-standing concerns, adding a direct, undeniable layer to the allegations of state-sponsored brutality. Hasina's political journey has always been polarizing. The daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founding father of Bangladesh, she ruled for most of the past 2 decades. Under her leadership, Bangladesh achieved economic growth and infrastructure development. But her critics argue that it came at the cost of democracy and human rights. Over the years, her government has cracked down on opposition parties, muzzled the press, and centralized power. The 2024 election, boycotted by the main opposition BNP after its chairwoman was jailed and much of its senior leadership was arrested, was widely seen as a turning point. It gave her party an uncontested victory but robbed the process of legitimacy. The student protests were a direct consequence of that political vacuum. The current crisis also revives memories of Bangladesh's long history of student activism. From the language movement of 1952 to the mass upsurge in 1990 that ousted a military dictator, students have long been at the forefront of political change. In 2018, students mobilized for road safety and were met with tear gas and batons. But 2024 was different. The demand was not reform, it was accountability. And the price paid by these students, many of them under 25, was steep. International reactions have been mixed. While human rights groups have condemned the use of force, most governments have remained cautious in their response. The United Nations has called for an independent investigation. Amnesty International labeled the government's actions a clear violation of international human rights norms. Several countries, including the US and UK, updated their travel advisories and expressed concern over the suppression of democratic freedoms, but there's been no major diplomatic fallout yet. The leaked audio has become a symbol of everything that's wrong with the current political climate in Bangladesh. It has shattered illusions for many who once supported Hasina. Families of those killed are now demanding not just apologies, but legal accountability. Lawsuits have been filed. Independent journalists have launched their own investigations. And while the streets may be quieter today than they were in mid-2024, the anger has not faded. It simmers below the surface, on social media, in university dormitories, in hushed conversations among civil servants. There's also a broader implication here about political leadership in the digital age. When everything is recordable, when every conversation can leak, the space for authoritarian overreach narrows. But the backlash can also be fierce. Hasina's supporters claim the leak is being used unfairly without context. Her detractors say no context could possibly justify the use of live ammunition on students. The BBC's verification of the audio has settled the technical debate, but the political and moral reckoning is still ongoing. What do you think will be the fate of the brave Bengali population? Do you think that Sheikh Hasina will face the consequences of her actions?